How goes the family? Welcome back to Patterson Properties. Hope you guys having a great day. Remember, Patterson Properties, we wholesale real estate via tax sales, tax liens, and we do the whole, text blast, mailing, and all that great stuff. All right. So contact us. Our links are in the description. Go from there. Also, if you're a stock market investor, crypto investor, individual retirement account investor, think about signing up with Stash, crypto.com, Coinbase, Acorns, all that great stuff. All the links, and WEBULL, and all those links are in the description. And thank you all. I always say this. Remember, I always like to say this in the beginning, so I don't forget. Thank you for the Cash Apps and PayPal's, and thank you for the Venmo contributions. I always put it back into the channel, right? All right. So the great state of Utah has been growing at a very rapid pace for the last, 10, 15 years. Whether it involves corporations moving there to no longer be taxed as much or taxed at all, people immigrating there from other countries, and of course, Californians relocating there for a better life. The state of Utah has been growing. And with growth always comes opportunities. And in today's world, a major increase in cost of living, according to the article that I read today, in the past year, rent in some U.S. cities actually shot up tremendously at a staggering 35%, according to the recent report from Redfin, fueled in part by rising housing prices that force potential home buyers into the rental market, jacking up demand and leading up to higher rates. While Utah often leads the United States in growth and rising home prices, Ogden, Provo, and Salt Lake cities are the majority metropolitan areas recently made the top 10 list of the country's most overvalued markets. Last year, the Beehive State saw an increase in rent that was aligned with the national average because at one time, Ogden and Provo and Salt Lake City's cost of living could be compared to places like San Antonio, Texas, El Paso, and Houston, Texas, aka considered to be reasonable cost of living areas. The article also stated that out of the 10 metro areas in the United States that saw the highest year ever rise in rents, most are obviously New York City, adjacent to Florida. According to the Redfin report, they were Austin, Texas, like I said, saw a 40% year increase in rents. Nassau County in New York, New York City, Newark, New Jersey, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Miami, Florida, West Palm Beach, Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Jacksonville, Florida, and Portland, Oregon. So it's a nice smorgasbord of all over the country where you've seen a big increase in rents, and with all those places, and the biggest was actually, people who don't believe that, but the biggest increase was actually in Austin, Texas, up to 45%. The rest of the areas that I just mentioned were up to 35%, and West Palm Beach, Florida, Miami, Florida was 34%, and Fort Lauderdale was 34%, Jacksonville 31%, and Portland, Oregon 29%. But Austin, Texas, is even the mayor said themselves is that they want to turn Austin, Texas into a San Francisco. It'll never be a San Francisco because they lack the amount of taxes that San Francisco has and the state of California has. But the city of Austin, I got to see them on eyes last year. Nice city. Didn't really tickle my fancy, but nice little laid back city, has a little spark to it. But the cost of living is becoming so outrageous that if you do not own a business or you don't work in tech, it's to the point now where you cannot afford to live in the Austin city metro limits and whatnot. And before I go on, remember, family, that it doesn't matter what state one lives in nowadays in 2022, and not at all. And I mean, all major cities' cost of living has increased dramatically within the last 10 years. Heck, even Nashville, Tennessee, is cost of living is almost as close as it is to Washington, D.C. So that tells you a lot right there. The whole red state, blue state, purple state nonsense becoming more relevant every single day. Anyways, the article stated that Utah's most statewide figures point to 10% to 15% increase in rent during 2021, with Salt Lake City metro area seeing the largest bump throughout the whole state. Consider the data from CoStar. Salt Lake City metro saw a 17.7% year over year increase in rent. Provo saw a 16.2% increase, and St. George saw a 10.5% increase. And when I see things like this, it reminds me of how things are in Metro Atlanta, which I just had the pleasure of going to a couple of months ago. New Orleans, Louisiana, Austin, and Dallas, even Dallas, Texas, has become very expensive areas as well. The poor and most working people in those areas who do not already own real estate or most likely will not be able to afford it anytime soon. Maybe in the so-called correction that they're talking about that's happening right now, because of the lack of sales and lack of homes that are on the market. And most people are predicting 2023 and 2024 will somewhat, and with the interest rates going up, will bring the housing market somewhat back to kind of normalize it in a sense, but we'll have to see and go from there. The article also stated that just because these increases are aligned with the national average doesn't mean the Beehive State, Utah, isn't seeing an unprecedented surge in rent. According to the department list, that nationwide increase during 2021 was record-setting. Experts say there are a few reasons for the spike, but a nationwide demand that exceeds the supply of rental units is a leading factor. The demand in Utah is fueled by hot housing markets, which in turn force many prospective buyers to rent instead. Roughly 34% of people in Utah are renting. And before I go on, remember that a lot, but not most people that are moving to Utah, aka Californians, are coming to states like Utah, Texas, Arizona, and Nevada with cash in hand. So that's another thing that messes with not only the rents, but with the prices at the same time. The article ended on this note stating that one of the reasons Utah didn't see a crazy spike in rents, but a spike in rents, despite seeing the rise in housing prices, is because of the type of rentals that are common in the state of Utah. Of the roughly 300,000 rental units in Utah, over 100,000 are single-family homes, which was stated by experts within the article. Another 50,000 are duplexes or triplexes. That leaves about 150,000 rentals that are in buildings or complexes that have multiple rent units, which are typically run by professionals rather than what people would call mom and pop landlords. Housing experts, including many from around the country, not just Utah, don't expect rent to drop anytime soon. We all know that. But 1 year or in 6 months, leases ensures that rates won't go down quickly either. And inflation, being crazy as it is, has rendered historical increases in rent hovering around 3% to 7% annually insufficient. And no matter where one lives, rent increases are going to continue. They are not going to be as big as it was in 2021, but just to keep up with inflation now, they have to be at least 7% or 8%. A 7% or 8% increase now flat, So we'll see what happens. And, I've been to Utah. It's not bad, not my cup of tea, but it's got a lot of very beautiful sights to see. I love the mountains and the regions and whatnot, nice people. So, if you ever think about checking Utah out, go for it, beautiful state, and go from there. So do the great 3 things, like, share, subscribe, have a great day. And as I always say, make money move. So you're going to live, bro, like a fool. Take care.